Section 19 of Reviews by Oscar Wilde. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tim Bulkley. Reviews by Oscar Wilde, edited by Robert Ross. Section 19. Some Novels. Pall Mall Gazette, April 14, 1886. After a careful perusal of Twixt Love and Duty by Mr. T. Hopkins, we confess ourselves unable to inform anxious inquirers who it is that is thus sandwiched, or how he or she got into so unpleasant a predicament. The curious reader with a taste for enigmas may well be advised to find out for himself, if he can. Even if he be unsuccessful, his trouble will be repaid by the pleasant writing and clever character drawing of Mr. Hopkins's tale. The plot is less praiseworthy. The whole Madeira episode seems to lead up to this dilemma, and after all it comes to nothing. We brace our nerves for a tragedy, and are treated instead to the mildest of marivaudage, which is disappointing. In conclusion, one word of advice to Mr. Hopkins. Let him refrain from apostrophizing his characters after this fashion. "Oh, Gilbert Reed, what are you about that you dally with this golden chance?" and so forth. This is one of the worst mannerisms of a bygone generation of storytellers. Mr. Gallenga has written, as he says, a tale without a murder, but having put a pistol ball through his hero's chest and left him alive and hearty notwithstanding, he cannot be said to have produced a tale without a miracle. His heroine, too, if we may judge by his descriptions of her, is all a wonder and a wild desire. At the age of 17, she was one of the great maker's masterpieces, a living likeness of the Dresden Madonna. One rather shudders to think of what she may become at 40, but this is an impertinent prying into futurity. She hails from Maryland, my Maryland, and has received a careful, if not a superior, education. Need we add that she marries the heir to an earldom, who, as aforesaid, has had himself perforated by a pistol bullet on her behalf. Mr. Gallenga's division of this book into acts and scenes is not justified by anything specially dramatic, either in its structure or its method. The dialogue, in truth, is somewhat stilted. Nevertheless, its first-hand sketches of Roman society are not without interest, and one or two characters seem to be drawn from nature. The Life's Mistake, which forms the theme of Mrs. Lovett Cameron's 2 volumes, is not a mistake after all, but results in unmixed felicity. And, as it is brought about by fraud on the part of the hero, this conclusion is not as moral as it might be. For the rest, the tale is a very familiar one. Its personages are the embarrassed squire with his charming daughter, the wealthy and amorous mortgagee, and the sailor lover who is either supposed to be drowned or falsely represented to be fickle. In Mrs. Cameron's tale, he is both in succession. When we add that there is a stanza from Byron on the title page and a poetical quotation at the beginning of each chapter, we have possessed the discerning reader of all necessary information, both as to the matter and the manner of Mrs. Cameron's performance. Mr. E. O. Pleydell Bouverie has endowed the novel-writing fraternity with a new formula for the composition of titles. After J.S. or trivialities, there is no reason why we should not have A.B. or platitudes, M.N. or sentimentalisms, Y.Z. or inanities. There are many books which these simple titles would characterize much more aptly than any high-flown phrases, as aptly, in fact, as Mr. Bouverie's title characterizes the volume before us. It sets forth the uninteresting fortunes of an insignificant person, one John Stiles, a briefless barrister. The said John falls in love with a young lady, inherits a competence, omits to tell his love, and is killed by the bursting of a fowling piece. That is all. The only point of interest presented by the book is the problem of how it ever came to be written. We can scarcely find the solution in Mr. Bouverie's elaborately smart style, which cannot be said to transmute his trivialities into flies in amber. Mr. Swinburne once proposed that it should be a penal offence against literature for any writer to affix a proverb, a phrase, or a quotation to a novel by way of tag or title. We wonder what he would say of the title of Pen Oliver's last book. Probably he would empty on it the bitter vial of his scorn and satire. All But is certainly an intolerable name to give to any literary production. The story, however, is quite an interesting one. At Laxenford Hall live Lord and Lady Arthur Winstanley. Lady Arthur has 2 children by her first marriage, the elder of whom, Walter Hope Kennedy by name, is heir to the broad acres. Walter is a pleasant English boy, fonder of cricket than of culture, healthy, happy, and susceptible. He falls in love with Fanny Taylor, a pretty village girl, is thrown out of his dog-cart one night through the machinations of a jealous rival, breaks one of his ribs, and gets a violent fever. His stepfather tries to murder him by subcutaneous injections of morphia, but is detected by the local doctor, and Walter recovers. However, he does not marry Fanny after all, and the story ends ineffectually. To say of a dress that it was rather under than over adorned is not very pleasing English, and such a phrase as almost always but by no means invariably is quite detestable. Still, we must not expect the master of the scalpel to be the master of the stylus as well. All But is a very charming tale, and the sketches of village life are quite admirable. We recommend it to all who are tired of the productions of Mr. Hugh Conway's dreadful disciples. 1. Betwixt Love and Duty, a Novel, by Teague Hopkins, Chatto and Windus. 2. Jenny Jennet, A Tale Without a Murder, by A. Gallenga, Chapman and Hall. 3. A Life's Mistake, a Novel, by Mrs. H. Lovett Cameron, Ward and Downey. 4. J.S. or Trivialities, a Novel, by Edward Oliver Pleydell Bouverie, Griffith, Farran and Co. 5. All But, A Chronicle of Laxenford Life, by Pen Oliver, F.R.C.S. Kegan Paul. End of section 19, Some Novels. Recording by Tim Bulkley of BigBible.org.